This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we are discussing about static and interface, right? So, and I have discussed about static binding and non-static binding, like a dynamic binding. So you want me to repeat that, or you're clear on static binding or non-static binding? Sorry, dynamic binding, static binding and dynamic binding.
So I am good from my side.
So
can you please go one more time?
Yes, I'll do that.
If you don't mind, okay.
So this is very important whenever you learn anything like your Spring or your advanced Java. Your runtime polymorphism is very, very important. Why? Because it is a basic thing that you need to understand whenever you go for advanced topics. So why it is very important is like the concept of dynamic binding is nothing but your parent can hold your child object. Am I right?
Yeah. Can you please share your screen? I can't
Yes,
see
yes,
it.
I'm doing it.
Hi Surya.
Yes.
Just one question. So I understood that parent class can hold the child object. Okay.
Yes.
But just curious to know what's the use of it? Why?
I'll be.
Okay.
So it is not only in the real time. I'm going to repeat that concept what I have told you. So like what happens, we have created an you can able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you see, we have created an RBI object where we have a withdraw method as well as a deposit method. Am I right? So this in a real time, this can be implemented by n number of classes like HDFC, IDPay, Access. There are n number of classes. This can be implemented, and they will have this methods, and the overriding of the abstract methods is mandatory. So as of now, you have known that concepts, and if you see. Like whenever in the real time, whenever you want to write an object, you don't know which objects comes, right? So it may be HDFC object, or it may be IDI object, or it may be Access. So generally the object creation will not be in this way whenever you do your real-time application when it comes from the front end. I'm just taking an example. It might not maybe the bank it has not been, but in the real example, whenever you do not want the object creation this hard coded, right, on runtime, on whenever I want the object creation to be done on runtime, right? So in that case, what I just want here. So for example, if you want in runtime, if you hold here with left side HDFC, you cannot write IDBA, you cannot write Access. If you hold here with IDBA, you cannot create HDFC object. But if you are left side, if you are holding with the parent, if runtime, whatever the object comes, like it may be the HDFC or it may be IDBA, whatever it comes, you can able to hold it. And that's the reason this you call it as dynamic binding, and which is very important. So in Java also there are many concepts that developed based on dynamic binding. So how can I tell why your parent need to hold your child object is okay, what's the concept that we have not covered much parts in core Java concepts like exception handling or those things. Also the basic is nothing but if you don't know, right, runtime, if you are very sure, okay, IDBA is coming, So then what I know, I'll be holding with IDBA. So in runtime, there are a lot of cases you are not sure which objects to be created and which objects comes, right? So in that case, your dynamic binding is the best choice, and holding with the parent is the best choice. So whenever you hold with parent, whatever the object comes, you can able to create it. So I want to tell with some Java examples, but I think I have not covered you. Whenever you see collections also, I think collections was not the part of the syllabus, but I'm telling, like in the collections which is predefined, the topic is, so which is the things the Java people develop. So there also, if you see you, whenever you use iterator concept or these things, the return type will be an object type. So why they are returning an object type is nothing but because if you return an object type, that can be held by any so if you return a object type which is like a parent of every class, if you see whatever the class, if I create HDFC or IDBA, whatever the class I create first, in Java, as I told you, your LAN is a by default implemented package, and the object is a parent for all the classes. Whatever the class, object is parent. So whenever you're writing a predefined concepts, so what they do, they will define object as a parent. So whenever they define object as parent, so you can able to hold with anything. You can hold with object, or you can able to hold with your predefined class. Okay, you get this more clear once even I go with advanced Java also. Whenever we start advanced Java, whenever we start servlets also, this concepts gets more clear. Okay, I'll tell you why why I'm calling this as static binding and why I'm calling it as dynamic. Someone asked me again, right, to explain this.
Sir, is this array interface Java interface, or the different one?
Sorry,
Is this a Java interface class?
which one Java interface? Nothing. Which is a Java interface you're telling?
Two classes, right? For the bank drive and other class, the IDB, HDFC, and okay, yeah. It's not interface. Okay.
No. So RBA is an interface. So we have written an interface, right? So where this having two abstract methods. So what is a concept as per the Java 1.7? If any class that implements the interface, so who is going to provide the logic? If it is an abstract method, a class extends has to provide the logic for it, right? So basically, why you need a method is nothing but a method is something where you write a logic and it will do that functionality. But abstract method does not do that. So whose responsibility to do that things is nothing but the class which implements your abstract methods. The class that implements your interface need to implement you need to override your abstract methods. So your HDFC is implementing RBI, so it has to override this withdraw and deposit, and it will provide the logic. The same way your IDBA overrides RBA, implements RBA and overrides withdraw and deposits. So I think you know what is the overriding with writing a same name and same signature.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, here if you see, I have created with HDFC, I have created here with RBI. So you asked me like why I'm calling this as static binding and why I'm calling this as dynamic binding, or something else question, like you need why the name I'm telling here is a static binding, why I'm telling this name as dynamic binding. You want that clarification or something else?
Yes, sir. That's a clarification. Yeah, I want it.
Okay. So here you have an RBA. This RBA is in two methods, right? Withdraw is one of the method in RBA. So deposit is one of the method, right? So these are nothing but your abstract methods. Okay. So for this abstract method, you have a class called some HDFC, which is implements your RBI. So what happens? This is going to provide the logic, right? So it is going to write. Okay, same way it will write for deposit also. So here, whenever you creating an object, so for example, in some main method or some method, you are creating an object. Am I right? So whenever you create an object in main method somewhere in some class, so if you are doing in this way, right? HDFC reference variable equals to new HDFC, and if you call HDFC with HDFC dot withdraw, so which method in withdraw gets called? It gets called in the withdraw which is present in the HDFC, not with the RBI. So why? Because you created HDFC object. So generally in a code or whatever you do, there are two things, right? So whenever you write any code, there are two things that you do. One is compiling, one is running. So what happens at compile time? Compile time is the one where it will check any syntactical errors or something that if you missed something out, it will be checking it your compile time. So what happens at runtime? So the real part, like the code gets executed at runtime. So if you see here, there are two things. So this left side you call it as compile time, this right side you call it as you need to call it as runtime. So this is my compile time. So compile time, your compiler checks this part. What is the reference variable which is holding that object? So at right side, what happens? This happens at runtime. So your code gets executed for like when you call withdraw method. So whenever you call HDFC what withdraw, so what happens? Your compiler checks whether withdraw is present in the HDFC or not. So why it is checking or why it is binding with the withdraw which is present in HDFC? Because you have written left side as HDFC. Same way, whenever you write right side as runtime, so your compiler will execute the like JVM or compiler will execute the from which you created an object. So is this one? So what happens at compile time? Your compiler is going to bind whenever you call HDFC. Compiler is going to bind for a withdraw which is present in the HDFC, not with withdraw which is present in RBI. Why? Because here you have HDFC. So this happens. The binding of withdraw method happens with this compile time with HDFC. So at compile time happens binding. So at compile time you call this as binding. So okay, compiler thinks okay, this method is going to be executed and I need to bind it. So this method is present. It's just I am telling it, right? If you do not have this method, compiler will throw an error, right? So at runtime, which method executes? When it executes the withdraw which is present in the HDFC only. Why? Because you created HDFC object only. So this happens at runtime. So do you see there is any change between runtime and to compile time? No, right? So whatever the method that got binded at the compile time, the same method got executed at runtime. So there is no change from the compile time to runtime. So that is the reason you calling this as nothing but your static binding. There is no change. Static, there is no change. Whatever the method that got binded in the compile time, the same method got executed at runtime. So that is the reason you call this as a static binding. So whenever you call as a dynamic binding, when you will be calling it as dynamic binding, you will be telling it. So when I call RBI, if I create an RBI object and if I call new HDFC, and if I write RBI dot withdraw, so this is nothing but my dynamic binding. So you will be telling why I'm calling it as dynamic binding. So whenever I call RBI dot withdraw, sorry, spelling mistake with W comes here, RBI dot withdraw. So whether this withdraw present in HDFC will execute or withdraw present in RBI will execute. So like execution, so at compile time, what happens? At compile time, withdraw present in RBI will be binded, or withdraw present in HDFCL will binded at compile time. Can you please tell me?
In RBI.
In RBI, yeah.
So why? Because it is going to bind with the withdraw present in RBI. Why? Because your left side is having RBI. So this happens at compile time. Okay, compiler checks whether withdraw present in RBI or not. At compiler at compile time. Okay. At runtime, which method executes? Method in withdraw or method in HDFC?
With the HDFC runtime, because it's the right side. It's the object is right side, right?
So
yeah. HDFC's runtime is execute the HDFC, right?
yes, exactly. So like right side is nothing but at runtime. At runtime, which method it execute? For which you created an object. You created an object of which one? You created an object of HDFC. So at runtime, it will not execute withdraw in RBI. It will execute withdraw in HDFC. Am I right?
Yeah.
So it will be executing the withdraw which is present in the HDFC at runtime. So you see, so whatever the method that got binded at compile time will be unbinded, and it will execute the method which is present in the HDFC. So this happens at runtime. Do you see there is any change from the compile time to runtime? Yes. The change is it compile time it binded with withdraw in RBI. At runtime it executed the withdraw in HDFC. So this you call it as dynamic binding. The change from compile time to runtime you are calling it as dynamically changing. So dynamic binding. So whatever the method that got binded at compile time has unbinded and executed at runtime. So that you call it as not a static. The name that name indicates, right? So it is you are calling it as dynamic binding. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Very well explained. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So yeah, one question.
Yes.
So yeah, currently, if you see, the new HDFC object is fixed, right? With RBI, you have written, right? Instance you have created for RBI. So what I am trying to say is, can we make it dynamic? Like currently it is SDFC, but during runtime, can we send IDBI or can we send something else here?
Yes, you can. You will be sent. So you hard coded it. So you want how you will be sending that? You are asking me, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's what.
That's
So
what
in
I'm
real
trying to
time
understand, because
applications.
if this is dynamic binding and if we want to use it, then basically, let's say there is a drop down box, HDFC, IDFC, anything. If we select
Yes.
HDFC, the object of HDFC, if it comes here, then it will call the method of HDFC.
Yes,
If
exactly.
we select IDBI, so that way
Yes.
it can be,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. So you
that
can
is one
do like
example I
that.
can think of.
Okay. So actually, so like as part of the syllabus, that UI part we're not covering. So with it is not only with the drop down. So wherever you see with what I mean to say, with any with the Spring frameworks also, whenever you see any framework also, here this object passage, right? So how they will pass the object is nothing but based on the input or based on the requirement. It is not like if you come from this class, it is like you need to create this class. If you come from it, you need to create it. So this object passage can be, if you want, you can do it from the UI, or if you want, you can do it from the from the what I mean to say, for the frameworks also. So like the designing UI and that part is not the per syllabus, but we'll see. So once we complete our current things, and if possible, we'll be seeing it. So as part of my, whenever we go with advanced Java, so I'll be covering anyway with what I mean to say, I'll be covering uh, like how to connect to the database, a simple HTML and these things. After that, if the time permits, I'll for sure I'll be telling you this.
Okay, and I have one more question. So currently a class is implementing an interface, and then we are seeing this concept of dynamic binding. So is it also present if a class is extending another class?
Okay, for example, a class extends your another class. Okay, so
Let's say
that's what, like,
RBI is also a, yeah, let's say RBI is, instead of RBI being an interface, let's say it is a class.
okay.
So now can we have this dynamic binding there also?
Yes, whenever you extend with a class, your RBI is a parent and this is a child. So whenever you hold with, whenever you left side, if you write like a parent object, you can able to hold with the child object. So the same time, your compiler always, even in that case also, it is going to check with the parent class. It is not the concept for interface, but like generally the concept is like
Okay.
dynamic binding. Whenever you make a parent reference for a child, so at compile time, your compiler checks with the parent method, and runtime it executes the method for which you created.
Okay. One last question. So right now, the name of RBI, name of the object is RBI, right? It is kind of parent, right? So
Yes.
parent, if I am making a type of parent and assigning him the child object, then will that parent be able to access all the methods of child plus parent?
No, no,
Oh, right? Okay.
no. Parent cannot object the child methods. So I'll show. So for example, here you have a HDFC, right? So
Mhm.
HDFC has an extra method, right, which your RBI is not having. Am I right?
Correct. Yeah.
So your HDFC having what method? Get gift for a customer, which your RBI does not have. So can I call that HDFC dot get gifts? I can call it. Am I right?
Correct. With HDFC, you can call it.
Get gifts for a customer, because at compile time it is going to check with the HDFC, right?
Yeah.
So, but okay. Now can I call RBI one dot get gifts method?
Yeah, that is what I want to understand.
You cannot call. It will not show that
That is
method
not even
itself.
showing.
So,
Yeah.
that's what the concept for your run this compile time, right? So as I told, compile time, what happens? Your compiler is going to check for the get gifts for a customer method, where it will not check in HDFC. Where it will check, it is going to check in RBI. Am I right?
Correct.
So in RBI, that method does not exist. So your compiler will not allow, right? So to compile the code itself. So you cannot do that. So the thing is nothing but when you want to it, you need to from withdraw, you can call it. You can call a withdraw. From the withdraw method, you can call it. You are getting me, right? So whenever you do some extra methods, you can
Yeah.
call a withdraw. From this withdraw method, you can call this get gift method.
Withdraw or deposit, both of it, right? Because both
Yes,
of
yes,
them are
both are non-static. Both, this is also non-static. You can call it.
correct.
Okay. Actually, my after this, I just the next point of telling is whatever my like what I want to tell you asked me in a question. I just told it. So even I thought of telling the same thing. Thanks for that. Okay. So mostly now, as per this, after completing this interface, like we completed the core concepts of Java, like what is exception, not exceptions, what is this oops concepts, like interface, inheritance, and even access specifier. So all these are nothing but your basic oops concepts or core concepts So which is very important when you want to start with advanced Java. So in core Java also there are a lot of things again, like you have multi-threading, you have exception handling, you have collections. So there are a lot of other topics. For that also the basics you need is nothing but core Java. Whenever, for example, if you study exception handling and you study collections, so both are different topics, and it is not required you to understand collections with multi-threading or multi-threading with collections. Both are different concepts, right? But for both multi-threading and collections, you need core Java, the basics. That what I thought. For exception handling, you need whatever I thought. So you can able to even get the things. I'm just telling it because there you see all this non-static methods, static methods, calling a variable, calling a method, and how you write predefined things, and what is the static binding, and what is where that interface comes, where that extends comes. So what all the things we have covered will be seen over there as a one concept. That's it. Okay, it is very pretty like very having a very good knowledge on this concepts makes you to learn any other very quickly and very easily. Okay, so though those are not part of the current syllabus we are covering, so I think you're clear as of now. And I told you, like, any queries with the core Java previous sessions also, you can let me know, because I'll just start with advanced Java, like what is Tomcat and what is the servlets, and there before starting it, so you need to be very clear on this concepts, like with extents, whatever we have covered from the day one onwards, because there you were not able to, you see this, but so whenever you're not here, you might not understand what is happening exactly there. If you are okay and no queries, I go with advanced Java.
And we need to download Tomcat also in our system.
Yes, you need Tomcat.
How to do that one?
Okay, it's a simple, like just Google and not Tomcat. I'll show anyway. So just browse with Tomcat 8 or Tomcat installation or Tomcat download. Can download 9. I think that is fine. Apache Tomcat 9 download. So you can go for Tomcat 9 downloads here. Okay, we are here itself. Okay, based on your computer, whether it's 64 GB or like 64 or 32-bit, just download it. It will be like generating a jar file. So the thing you need to extract it. So after extracting it, so it creates a folder for you like this. So here program files, I think I have Tomcat. Okay, even this is my new system. Okay, anyway, I'll download it here and show to you. Okay, so before downloading, before having Tomcat also, we need the basic stuff. What is what is that? So we go with that and we do download it. Okay, so as I told you, make sure that your Eclipse is having Java double E, not Java. So whenever you have Java, you cannot see this. So you go to the project also, new project also, you cannot see this creation of dynamic web project. This cannot be able to see whenever you select here Java. So here there will be two options also, like you may have Java also, that you just check with an icon. For sure you'll have Java double E also. If you have installed enterprise, if you have not installed, you'll not find this icon. Okay, You can just see, and if any queries or issues, let us know. And I hope everyone started like at least working with it, right? So is it like I was so it is not like I was asking it, but so everyone, I think hopefully whatever the currently who are there here, I hope you have started installed Eclipse and doing this practice, right? Whatever the concepts we are covering.
I have Eclipse and Java already, but I don't think so. I have a double that one. We have to reinstall again, or what to do?
Okay, if you are not having, so I suggest, so there are two things that you can do. So one is nothing but you can use the like you can able to install the you can able to add the plugins in the marketplace, so for Java. But I prefer instead of that like save your data. Obviously your these things will be saved. What if you create any project, this will be created in your workspace itself. So what you do, delete that entire Eclipse and try to reinstall that Eclipse. So whenever you are installing it, it will again ask you a pop-up whether you want to choose your advanced or like web applications kind of thing or normal thing. Then that in the pop-up just choose web application.
Okay, just for Eclipse, right? Not for Java. Do not do that.
Not for
Not for the Java. I have Java, core Java in my system. Do I need to do again, like reinstall and install again, or just Eclipse?
Like you are asking JDK, those stuff.
Yeah.
No need of that. Only Eclipse. JDK, JR, everything will be again same.
Okay.
Do it for only Eclipse. My account is unprocessed, like unauthorized actually. So trying to do it.
Just
Before
click
it
on
is
that close
useful.
button. I think it will be able to show at least.
Sorry, close button.
Yeah, close button.
This one?
Yeah.
No. Use sign in only.
Use as view
So
only,
it is
na?
not.
You can.
So okay, fine. I cannot do that. Enable editing. Okay.
Yeah, but you can at least close the side window.
Yes. Actually, I installed some steps like for analyzed, like unlicensed product, but still that are not working. Not sure. Okay, here if you see your, as I told in the beginning, right? So there are three flavors of your Java. You have it, right? So one is your core Java, with where you use standalone applications, and the second one is your advanced Java, so that you do the like a dynamic applications. So by using J2EE. So what is any dynamic application or a web application? So you can call it an enterprise application. So what all this is nothing but an application where it communicates with the web. You call it as web application. So even the definition states that utilizes web browsers and web technologies to perform tasks over the internet. So there are a lot of web applications, enterprise applications that you are seeing real time, right? So your ID, like where you, whenever you want to log into a banking, like net banking, or whenever you use Amazon, Facebook, Gmail, or whatever, the data is not in your system. When I'm talking to Gmail, the data is not coming from the email. Information was not in my system. It is in some server and database somewhere at location. So I'm from a browser. This is a browser we are going to interact with and doing it, right? Whenever you try to book anything in Amazon or Flipkart, so all the products that where they are present in some server. So how you can able to connect it and get that information is because of browsing your internet. When in the internet you are sending some kind of request, that request is reaching in the browser, and they are processing that request in the backend, and they're just showing the results what you want it, right? So there are a lot of operations that happens in the backend whenever you click on some button, itself. So when you are trying to do creation or something, there are a lot of operations or a lot of things that need to be happened at the backend. So you can see a web application or web program is a program that's stored so I think I do not want to read that entire content. So you'll send a request so that you will have an HTTP. So when from a web, right? So always the request goes in the form of HTTP, like hypertext transfer protocol. So you need to follow some rules and regulations whenever you send a request in the over the internet. So it is whenever the request reaches your server, it is your choice. You can use .NET, you can use Java, you can use Python, whatever the technology you use it and you convert to your particular object and process your information and resend that information. Like, so whenever again you are sending it, how you send it, you send as a response as HTTP response, right? Because it is hypertext transfer protocol, and you convert your HTTP to Java object or .NET object based on the technology that you are using it as server. So this is nothing but your server where we'll connect to the database where it has a lot of things here and will process the information and will send you a response. So client and a web browser. Here, who is nothing but the clients, your Chrome, your so your browsers, I can call it as your client machine, client tools, right? Your Chrome, IE, Mozilla are nothing but your client. So where it will be sending some information over here. So it will only understand HTML, like hyper text markup language. So do not confuse with HTTP and HTML. HTML is the language that understand by the browser. HTTP is the language that transfers from the browser to other server, right? So this HTML will be converted again like HTTP or whatever the backend code and transferred, and here you have the logic and business logic, and this is what your client will also understand, HTML. So whenever you open anything, you see a lot of HTML code here, right? So yeah, I opened here. So this also contains an HTML. So because you change, there is an action, right? HTML is nothing but everything, whatever you do, we see more on it, but for everything you have an like element here. But this is an element, this drop down is an element. So whatever you see, everything sees nothing but your elements. So you can able to inspect it where I have it. So I can just do an inspect, will show me that HTML code. You can see. So this is the name they have given and this is the values they have given, right? So the option values. So based on this, you can able to see it, right? And what is a button they have given, like the value button called submit, and the name they have given it as change. So you can see whatever you write there, this is under dev tag. So we'll have some different tags like dev, like h1, h2, h3, and I request you to go with W3 schools and learn HTML, like which is very basics. You can it is very basic thing where you can able to understand it very easy, and you can have any queries, you can let me know, because I'm going to tell, like I'll not be telling each and every tag and what is that. I'll be telling what is HTML. So it is like your browser and understanding language, but you can able to go to the W3 schools where you can able to get more information on it. So even not HTML, you can learn a lot of other things also. So when you want to start beginner, like this is the best thing. What is HTML and what are the basic elements that you have. It's very easy, even it will provide the access for you. I think most of you have known it, but I'm just telling for the people who are very new and there was nothing they know. So generally there are two kinds of applications that you have. One is your web applications and enterprise applications. So web applications and enterprise applications both will work with internet, but why you are calling it as enterprise? So both can be developed with J2EE, so with advanced Java. So but your enterprise is like heavyweight applications where it involves a lot of other services like messaging, transaction, and there are other services your enterprise applications needed. For example, whenever you want to develop a bank application, bank is not like only you will take a request, right? Your bank need a lot of other services to be supported. Your bank need messaging services, like and your bank need a security, which is very important, right? So and even it need a transaction. So if for example you are transferring from one account to another account or persons, like you want to maintain the transactions, like if it gets failed, it has to be failed in both the places, like you need a container. So a lot of other support also you needed apart from your request is sending in a browser. So that heavyweight applications you call it as enterprise. So whatever the things that you do in web can be done in enterprise, but whatever you do in enterprise cannot be done in web. So it is like comparatively bigger than your web applications. That's it. So you can see your web applications will be running on Tomcat server. So you need a server to run this, and here you will be running it in JBoss and WebSphere. There are a lot of other things. You can just go to these points if you want for 1 minute. What I told, it will be the same.
Surya, can you share this PPT?
I'll surely share it. I'll share that previous also. If you want the Java and this both, I'll share it. So
Yeah, it will be really helpful.
Yes. Can I share it to the mail, or can I?
In WhatsApp group only, if you can send, we can download it from there, not a problem.
Okay, then I'll do it. I'll just put there itself. Nothing. So it can be helpful for everyone, right?
Or maybe in the chat.
So in the chat, I can send this.
Yes, I think it should send. It should accept.
Okay, 1 minute. Think I cannot send it in chat. Like I can have an attachment here.
Okay. Then send it on WhatsApp. Yeah, that's fine.
I think that attachments will not work, I guess. So
Okay.
if you want, you can give your mail IDs, or otherwise I'll send it in that chat also. You can put your mail IDs here. I can send to your mail ID. Otherwise, I can put there also. Anything is
Yeah,
fine.
WhatsApp is fine.
Usually used in large companies. Here web applications will be used in small things.
So what is a web container?
So so as I told you, web container, for example, whenever you're running your code in a backend, right? So whenever the request comes from the client, right? So here the request is coming from this client. So it may be your HTTP request, or so some data comes, right? So now you need a container. So inside that you will write a servlet. But what is this container is nothing but which will take your request. So for example, your container will will need to translate that into a Java request, right? So because you write a servlet, right? So that servlet, for example, if you're chosen backend as my programming as Java, so this HTTP has to be converted to a Java object. So this HTTP request has to be converted to a Java object. Who is going to do that is nothing but your container, and will translate it to a servlet, and servlet will do that processing. So you assume it servlet is on top of your servlet. You assume that you have a container, right? And after processing, your servlet will generate, you'll give a Java object, but your browser will not understand that Java object. Again, when you cannot send the Java object in browser, again your container is the one where it will translate your Java object to HTTP response or something, and so it is going to maintain the life cycle. I just want to say it. So there are a lot of things about a container, but now I'm just telling, like, you have a container. Inside a container, you will have a servlet which will do the processing. It is like your on top of your servlet, you can tell that you have a container.
Okay.
Okay, you get more clear once we go with things also.
These three of them are containers, right? JSP, Servlet, and Java. Or...
Okay, so your web application is developed in web server. They have web containers. So Servlet, JSP, they are not your containers. They are nothing but your servlet is a concept again, and container, your Tomcat and JBoss WebSphere, you call it as containers. Okay. Like you, whenever you download your Tomcat, those things you call it as containers.
I think this will use on AWS also, right? Tomcat.
Sorry.
AWS also they use the Tomcat, right?
Okay, like Amazon, you are asking, right? So the cloud, again, it's a different concept actually. So they may be anything. So why that concept came is nothing but to remove these containers, right? To remove the Tomcat, JBoss. So whenever you do a real-time application, you deploy to your own server. So, but what happens whenever the AWS came the concept, do not worry what is it. You just do it and you deploy that, right? So you do not worry about a server, you do not worry about a container. So I am not sure with what things exactly present in AWS. Maybe yes. So but here when you do a normal web application without that cloud concepts, so you need to take that burden, right? So which server I need to take, what is the space, and that complexity, there are a lot of issues comes. That's the reason people started moving to the cloud technologies, where you do not, whenever in real time, you do not need that pain of taking the pain for the servlets, like not servlet, taking the pain for containers maintenance and container transactions, all the things. It's not your pain. The AWS will be taking care of, right? So that's the reason people are, for small applications, they prefer AWS most of other than this container stuff. Okay. Okay, there is a difference between a servlet and a server, right? So people gets confused. Like, servlet is different from a server. So servlet is a Java side technology whenever you want to develop a web application. So right, for example, when you go for a .NET, it may be different. When you go for Python, the name will not be a servlet. But server is the common. It is not a particular about technology. It is the common thing where it will store the data and processing it. Everything happens. So you can go with the definitions. If you have, like, you can go with the slide for 2 minutes, and you can any queries you can just let me know. Like, this runs in your, you can able to see the servlets like concept. First, web application, it is a Java object response for HTTP response. The part of web application, Java servlet runs inside a servlet container such as Tomcat and Jetty. So this servlet concept is for Java, but this is not for Java. It's a common thing. There are a lot of servers that you have: database servers, file server, mail servers. But you can say database also one of a server where it will store a huge amount of data, right? So you can see there are, for a Facebook, or you'll have a big data centers where your data servers, where it is going to store the large amount of data. It's just like a system. Our system, how our PC stores a small amount of data. Your server is like a little bigger, which will store a huge amount of data compared to ours. So here, these are nothing but web browsers and web clients. So here, Chrome, IE, there are Mozilla. I think most of us users do Chrome only. If application not supporting or something, we go for IE. So Chrome is most popularly dominated browser than other things, but generally you have a lot of browsers in the market. So It's like a client browser is the which will read HTML and convert into a page, right? So that's what you have seen it here, right? So which is reading this HTML and converting into a page. So your browser, this is my browser. Chrome is a browser. What it is doing, it is reading this HTML, this dev head tag and mirrors. Like this is nothing but all your HTML code it is reading, and it is converting to the user understandable or user easyable format, right? You are converting into this format. So it will read that HTML, convert it to a page. Currently, there are two popular GUI web browsers like. So whenever you send information, you send it from the browser. Whenever you receive it, you receive the browser. Like you can call that they are nothing but your clients also. Client is nothing but where you send a request and where you receive. Okay. So as I told you, whenever you send a request in a web, it will travel in the form of HTTP only, hypertext transfer protocol. So it will have some rules and regulations to travel it. So there are two kinds of HTTP that you have, HTTP and HTTPS. So most of you have seen this, right? HTTPS is nothing but a secured one where it will have an SSL certificate to be installed, and it is like encrypted one. So you cannot view your data what you are sending, but in HTTP it can be viewed that it is like very easy for the hackers to be hacked whenever you are sending the HTTP. So whenever you log into any banking network, just try to see for sure it will be HTTPS. So if it is HTTP not HTTPS, not login in for sure. Whenever you do any banking logging, net banking, that will be an HTTP. So but when you're trying to do any referral, right, reading a Java tutorial point or something, it may not be HTTP, right? So that is nothing, that is static data and you are getting it. There is nothing, you are storing some information, it is not related to any money kind of like secure stuff were not there for a tutorial, right? So it may not be HTTPS whenever you read any tutorials or something else, right? I think W3 schools also will not be your HTTP. It will be HTTP only. I think it comes in the start. Okay, it comes here where if it is HTTPS, it will be saying here HTTPS. So W3 schools also they have given HTTPS only, but it may not be required. Like I'm not telling it may not be required. So for a security they have given it, but for reading it this anything which is not more secure thing, you can make it as HTTP also. You see here it is HTTPS anyway. We have seen it right just now. World Wide Web, and it is a structured uses logic links between codes and containing things, and it is a request protocol between server and client to transfer the data. So this is your simple servlet flow. We see this with executing in Java by next class, and we'll just install this Tomcat and everything, and we'll see here what happens. You are trying to, you want to log into your Gmail account or something else. So you do it from the browser, you enter your user ID and password, and you click on submit button. So this is from the Chrome browser or something browser you have clicked on. What happens at the back end? So it will convert into an HTTP request where you have an user ID, where you have a password, right? So this travels in the form of HTTP request. So hypertext transfer protocol. And what happens? You have a server here. So server or container, I can call it as same like your server or a container. Tomcat here, I have a server. So or a Tomcat container. What happens on on Tomcat like which is on top of your servlet. So what happens? This HTTP object cannot be understood by servlet, right? So your servlet will read only Java object. I have a Java method. Servlet is nothing but a plain Java object that you extend some predefined class, which will have some, which will get some extra features. Servlet is something just a Java class itself, right? So this will understand only a Java code. It will not understand this HTTP request. So there will be someone who need to translate. Who is going to do, your server or a container is going to do the translation which of to a Java object, and it will pass here and it will do the processing. And what happens if the user ID password is right, it will show some login information or some, okay, it is like correct, and it need to show some your inbox or whatever may be. So you will have a success. If it is incorrect, it will check it from the database whether it is present or not. And if your user ID is incorrect, so what it will generate, it will generate the failure message. So again, this Java object convert into HTTP, and it will be a success or failure. Things will be sent back to the browser. Okay, so this is like your normal flow. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So we see this as a real-time example, like we write an HTML. So before starting tomorrow, I request you to go with this, please. HTML things, I request you to please, I'm not sure, like have some time and go with this. If you are known in HTML, not a problem. But if you are not, just go through the basics of it. What is HTML and why? So which is important for our tomorrow's concepts. Anyway, I'll tell why, but if you see what is a tag and everything, you may get more clarity and you can able to understand more clearly when you see. Okay. If nothing, I'll wind up the session today. I think we can have it.
I am good from my side, Surya. Thank you for the session.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you all. I'm winding up the session.
Thanks, Surya. Bye bye.